Hey guys, Brian Davis here from Spark Rental. Super glad to have you with us. And I am also very excited to have Smitha Puranik with us. She's the Director of Data Acquisition at the Lifetime Value Company, LTV Co. for short. It's a technology company that applies real estate data to practical uses. Their brands include property research sites like Ownerly and Neighborwho, and auto search sites like Bumper, people search sites like Been Verified. So she has a very deep background in data and also in real estate and a fascinating personal story. So, Smitha, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. It's an honor to be on your show.
Yeah, I'm very excited to hear about your story. So, you immigrated at a young age from India to the United States. First of all, tell us about how it was for you and how it shaped you as an adult.
Yeah, it's always been my family's dream to be in US. It's a country of, achieving your dreams. So we came in with lofty vision. We moved in like 2005. Fortunately for us, we landed in probably the best part of the country, which is California, Bay Area, and have been here since 2005. In terms of my real estate experience, we already had one to two properties in India by the time we moved to US. So we
Okay.
started very young in real estate investing, more as a matter of convenience and just building the basic needs in our life. But in US, we bought a first property in 2008 in Sunnyvale, California, and then we bought a second property in 2018 in San Jose. So that's my real estate experience. And of course, data plays a very important role in all these decisions.
I'm sure. How was it moving to a new country with still owning investment properties in India? And how was the management of those properties?
Yeah, it was a tough decision for us to make a choice to kind of settle in India and then make a decision to move to US. But just like any other immigrant, we wanted to visit US, work here, experience the culture. We've been in Australia and several other countries before. We travel a lot. So it was very exciting at the time. And while we also had apprehensions about leaving our property behind because that's where we saw ourselves live for a very long period of time. So the first thing was just decide what to do with the property in India when we moved here. So of course there were two options. We could have sold it at that time or rented it out, and we chose to rent it out, which I think on hindsight was a good decision, though it came with its own challenges. Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sure.
we did not use a property management firm. It was not that popular or well established in Chennai, India at that time. So that's not an option we considered. It was more
Wow.
word of mouth, publication in newspapers, just an old traditional way of getting renters at that time. And one of our properties in India, we actually, our family lives there. So that was an easy decision.
Okay, well that makes it easier. But your other properties in India, how have they performed, with you managing them yourself from halfway across the world?
It is difficult when you are managing it halfway around the world, especially without a property management firm. You need some kind of support from your family. So there were occasions when our family had to step in. Our renter was wanted to see the house
Right.
before they rented it out, so they had to walk in and show it to them. There were also instances where we had troublesome renters, and there would be a maintenance issue, and we even had one renter who did not pay the rent. So
Yep.
we got into a legal challenge. So yeah, it was quite difficult managing it from US, especially those properties in India.
Yeah, because all of those things happen with rental properties, right? I mean, you have tenants who don't pay the rent, you have maintenance issues with the property. Obviously every time you have a turnover, there's a lot of work with maintenance and with, showing the property to new renters and tenant screening. And yeah, I can only imagine how difficult that is. I left the U.S. And had some properties still here, but I did hire a property manager, and that was hard enough, even having a property manager. So, yeah, I can only imagine how difficult it was moving. Now, you have a background in data analysis, right? And you've built a career there. So, tell us how your career has brought you to, both data and real estate data in particular.
Yeah, my earlier career days, I actually started off very deeply in the technical space. So I was an engineer. I started off as an engineer, then graduated into a product management function and a program management function. But somewhere down the line, somewhere mid-career, I guess, so far, I realized that data was my passion, and I got the right opportunities to work in the data strategy space, which involves everything from identifying your business needs, finding those right data sources to meet those business needs, integrating them into the platform, and then optimizing them and buying more and more and more data. Consider it an entire data life cycle, and it turned out that was my passion, and it gelled very well with my personal mission of providing data and insights to both products companies as well as individual people, so that they can make well-informed decisions in their life, which in turn, of course, impacts their self-worth and overall fulfillment. So I thought it was a very important mission that I need to be part of. So that's how I landed in this job.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to make good decisions, whether you're talking about, life decisions or financial decisions, often those are the same thing. If you don't have good data, if you don't have good information. So it makes total sense to me. So tell us what you are working on right now with these real estate data sites, Neighborhood, Ownerly. How are you incorporating data to help real estate investors and home buyers make some of those better decisions?
One of the most important, I think, purposes of Neighborhood and Ownerly is to empower our consumers and subscribers to leverage all the data that is available. And in fact, most of this data is available publicly, but extremely difficult to find if you were to just individually look for them. So the benefit of using sites like Ownerly and Neighborhood is like it presents the data to the consumer in a very powerful, easy to understand, aggregated fashion, which then becomes very easy to monitor and use in your day-to-day life for important decisions like real estate investing, or even if you're buying a home, are a homeowner already and want to probably get a handyman service. You just get the perks associated with. So there are so many cool features that these sites offer, which benefit and put the power in the hand of the consumers.
All right. So can you give us some examples of how real estate investors can use data, whether on Ownerly or Neighborhood or, other sources of investment data or, housing related data? How are some tangible ways that real estate investors can use data to gain a competitive advantage in buying properties and managing properties? What can they do? What can they take away from this conversation to make them a better real estate investor?
Yeah. So let's start with like what they can do on Neighborhood, because I think that's where the user journey starts for an investor. So an investor goes into such sites with the expectation that they will be able to find some properties which match many of the criteria that they probably know by experience is pretty good. So they need a way to narrow down like thousands of listings to a very concrete set of data or listings or properties which meet those criteria. So they can get into Neighborhood and they can start with the listings and then deep dive into the details of the listings. And most of the time, when I have personally bought property, if I look at the neighborhood, what's the potential of the neighborhood for the value to increase in the future? That's something really basic because that determines the ROI. What's the potential rental income that may come out of the property? And I may have very specific criteria, like I need greenhousing or I need a particular number of years associated with the property. Like I don't want to buy a house which is built beyond earlier than 1980, for example. So there are a lot of criteria that each investor needs to probably shortlist the properties on, so that they can have a very targeted search. And that's what Neighborhood helps with. You also get to see very interesting information like hazard information. Is that particular neighborhood prone to earthquakes or
Right.
wildfires, which is very relevant in California, where I lived
Oh,
for the
sure.
past few years? So I think that's really important to understand before you invest in a property. Just understand the hazards and the associate risks. What are the schools? Like that could be a very important criteria for certain investors or even people buying homes, especially if they have a growing family. So what schools are in the neighborhood? What's the walkability score? What's the crime index in that neighborhood? What's the noise level in that neighborhood? So there are many such interesting criteria that you can shortlist for the city, for the county, and for the specific locality. So that's neighborhood and neighbor who. I think that's where the real estate investors need to start, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Using some of those filters to really narrow down your search and drill into some of those risk factors like you talked about, fire risk, flooding risk, earthquake risk, all things that investors need to be aware of and insure against if they do end up moving forward there. And of course, that insurance will eat into their cash flow. And some of those neighborhood amenity factors like walkability. So I love that. So what are some opportunities that you see available right now for real estate investors, based on what's going on in today's markets?
So I think though the economic climate seems a little bit gloomy,
Yeah,
I do see that as a perfect opportunity for those who have the money and the interest and the motivation to invest. So I think I see it as an opportunity more than as a threat. So if you do have the means and you can take a little bit of risk, I think this is a perfect time for real estate investing. Yes, there are some ups and downs in terms of the inventory that's available. But that
right.
said, I still hear people moving in and out of cities, buying more properties in different locations, especially after COVID. They're adjusting to a new lifestyle. They probably need a larger home. They've realized the importance of spending more time with family. There are a lot of work from home jobs. And a lot of people are still considering, what's the fastest way to retire without any dependency on the job. To me, financial freedom really means just meeting the basic needs, which is food, clothing, and of course, shelter. So despite the climate, I think it's a perfect time to invest in real estate in whatever small forms you have, crowdsourcing, being part of, co-investing. So these are the kind of opportunities I see. And plus even commercial real estate investing. I think it's prime time for that.
Sure, absolutely. And hearing you talk there, I was thinking of that famous quote by Warren Buffett, to be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. And it's true, with so many people reading all the negative headlines about real estate over the last 9 months, it does create opportunities, when everyone else is freaking out and wringing their hands. So, with that being said, I'd love to hear your crystal ball for where real estate markets are headed in the second half of 2023, as someone who is a data analysis expert.
From a data perspective, I see that people are becoming more and more aware and like to have information at the tip of their hands, which is why things like artificial intelligence, chat GPT, everything is taking precedence, where people want access and want to be self-adequate in terms of getting this information so that they can make these really critical life choices. And in 2023, again, the real estate market is going to go up despite maybe a shortage of inventory. People don't want to sell their houses at the moment. It's probably not a seller's market, but it's still a great time to buy if you have the right inventory and you find the right home and the investment property. Maybe it's a great time for fixer-uppers, so that when the market bounces back, you have the opportunity to resell. And then if you have an interest in like commercial real estate, like I had like a group of friends who co-invested in let's say leasing a land where they had petrol pumps and also convenience stores, and they co-invested. And that's a great time for such. The need for gas and or power is never going to go away. So picking those properties, if not for homes, you can start investing in these commercial real estate properties. I think there needs to be a shift in the mindset in that sense.
No, that makes perfect sense, and that is actually how we have started investing at Spark Rental in our co-investing club, in our real estate investment club. We invest every month in a new commercial deal. Now, most of those are multifamily properties, so they're providing housing, but they're still commercial properties, and in some cases, it's retail or industrial or other types of real estate, beyond multifamily. But yeah, I mean, I think in particular, there's an opportunity right now if you have cash to invest with, in particular, and so you don't have to worry about the high cost of financing right now, the high interest rates. You can find some of those deals out there.
Yeah.
So, Smitha, how can people connect with you if they want to connect with you or learn more about what you're doing at Ownerly or Neighborhood? How can people connect with you?
They can reach out to me via email, Smitha Puranik, my first name, last name without a space, at gmail.com. Or they can reach out to me over LinkedIn by messaging me. It's the same email ID, basically. That's the best way to reach me. If you
All
want.
right, great. And any final thoughts, as we wrap up here, any final tips for real estate investors out there?
If you're willing to take the risk, a small risk, and yet be conservative, as in keep in mind your debt to income ratio, I think you should take that step. You may have anxiety, you may have concerns, but once you invest in real estate, it is definitely an asset to grow your ROI and your net worth. That's been my personal experience. And I really wish more middle class people, middle income families, and a wider demographic invest in real estate. So that's my hope.
Well, we certainly share that hope. And, I'm glad that you have had such good personal experiences with your own investment properties. So, Smitha, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a lot of fun.
Likewise, Brian. Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. Well, guys, we will catch you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. As always. And be in touch with us, support@sparkrental.com, with any questions or comments or requested topics for conversation. And we will catch you on the flip side. Bye now.